Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar organized by the INCITE-DEM project. Thank you for coming. My name is Petteri Repo, and together with me I have Ilona Kousa and Mike Bogac, who will also be presenting at this webinar. We are looking at insights from case studies on democratic innovations. Yes, here we are. This is the Helsinki team. And by the way, we're going to sort of look at the big picture and hopefully give you some ideas on what to think of when you look for insights in democratic innovations. If you want to look for the nitty-gritty details, please have a look at the report, the deliverable we have published on the project website at incitedem.eu. There you have the documentation of what we're looking for. But today, now imagine if you have lots and lots of data on something, texts, interviews, and things like that. This was our starting point. We had interviews conducted at the project. I'll show you how many pretty soon, but there's a lot of text and we want to make sense of it in the field of democratic innovations. Interviews, texts are a bit complex, so we used natural language methodologies, network analysis, topic modeling, fuzzy set qualitative, comparative analysis, to look at those kinds of data, to look for opportunities, requirements, strategies, and commonalities in democratic innovations. And the webinar today hopefully gives you ideas on how to cope with such data. Hopefully it will inspire you. So if you come across a similar kind of situation where you want to, analyze something which there is a lot of, and then you have options, to pursue. You can find insights and you can understand also maybe the potential of thing you're looking for more. Yes. So Ilona, Mike, we're ready to go. Thank you. You're nodding here. First, I'll say a few words about the project. It's a European project looking at inclusive participation and civic engagement, promotes democratic innovation, and involving citizens in decision making. We have 10 European partners in 9 countries, and we've worked a lot. So our final event will be in January in the European Parliament in Brussels. It will be a fabulous event. But we've sort of done many things also. Here's just a short list. We started off with trends analysis, historical trends, current trends, to understand what participation in these settings is. Then we did, and this was actually quite extensive, 15 case studies of European and beyond democratic innovations, mostly in Europe. And that's what this webinar is pretty much about. How could we analyze interviews from those? Now, after that, we've done also quite a lot. We've had 6 democracy labs with citizens, and it's not just 6. In each of those, people have come, 4 times. So it's a lot of work going on. Very exciting work also. We've had interactive fora with policymakers about democratic innovation. Currently, we're doing policy dialogue sessions with stakeholders. The Helsinki session was just 2 days ago. Very insightful. And later on, there will be choice experiments so that, we can generalize all the findings which have come across in the project. So what are democratic innovations? Well, that's, I don't know, it's something of a tricky question, I suppose. And innovation is the implementation of something new. It can be a product, service, process, something institutional, and so on. And obviously, democratic innovations operate in the world or the field of democracy. Now, why would we want such innovations? Well, the basic logic is that if something is well, it could still be better. And if something is badly, it should be better. So an improvement is beneficial. Now, what kind of improvement? That's another question. There's a categorization by Elsteben Escobar, for instance, that democratic innovations involve many publics, participatory budgeting, referenda and citizen initiatives, collaborative governance, and digital participation. But it could also be something else. The field is progressing. Our case studies show that it can be many things, and it can be a mix of all of these things at the same time. So today, we have large amounts of texts. How do we cope with those? The interviews. We propose 3 ways of going. I mean, there are many ways, but this is something we have experience of. Ilona will speak about network analysis of the interviews in an effort to extract opportunities, requirements, enablers, and barriers. I will say a few words about fuzzy set, comparative analysis, and Mike will discuss topic modeling. Now, these are all quite different approaches. We chose to present methodologies which use the same data set, just to show that you sort of have to think beforehand what you're looking for. Now, in the case of interviews, obviously, the interview questions guide you already, so you have some kind of feeling where you're going. But then you have to have some kind of research design where you have an angle to it. So your research question and your methodology and your data and your interpretation are somehow in balance. And these 3, I don't know, balances or research designs is something we're presenting today. Let me say first a few words about the data. So we have 158 interviews of citizens, organizers, and policymakers who have been involved in cases of democratic innovation in Europe.
Thank you, Petteri. Actually, it's Ilona here asking a question. Perhaps you could tell some more about these interviews.
Yes. They were a big part of the project. And first, obviously, you have to select the innovations and you're going to look for, and then you have to select the interview people. The interviews were quite long. Most of the interviewed people were citizens who had taken part in a democratic innovation. On the left side of the slide, we have examples, or we have all the names of the innovations. Some were campaigns, some were platforms, and some, related to a plan and so on. So many kinds of things. The interviews were quite long. They were thematic. Most, I suppose, were between half an hour and even over an hour. So if you imagine on average maybe 45 minutes and you have 158, that would lead to, is it 120 hours?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Exactly. So, I mean, there are many words, but if you want to listen to them, it would take you 3 working weeks.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I think that was what you were hinting at. And if you want to transcribe them, well, I'm a slow writer, it will take much longer than 3 weeks, and so on. Now, luckily, we have very efficient linguistic tools. So it's easy to transcribe them, it's easy to translate them, but I suppose the idea of reading them still remains the same. and that's why we have the methodologies we are using. We did a short calculation. There were 350,000 words, which is about 850 pages, 14,000 terms, and so on. So how can we manage and analyze something like that? Ilona, you tell me.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sure, I will tell next something about the network analysis that we did. So network analysis is natural language processing combined with co-occurrence and clustering algorithms. And also we did some manual coding. And the idea was to find connections and patterns from this vast amount of interview data. We use this tool called VOS Viewer that extracts known phrases and then produces this visual representation of how these terms co-occur in the data. And this network consists of these different terms and also their relations or connections to each other. And in addition, these terms may be grouped into clusters, and there are different methods of clustering. And we, in this case that I'm presenting today, use the VOS Viewer clustering algorithm. And the objective in our analysis was to gain a high-level overview of this data. So we examined the frequencies of the terms and how they were connected to each other. In this analysis, we especially focused on the opportunities, requirements, enablers, and barriers of these democratic innovations and how they were expressed by these citizens, organizers, and decision makers that we interviewed in our 15 case studies. Okay, then let's look at an example from our network analysis. So this is one of the 15 case studies, the Helsinki Carbon Neutrality Plan. And here on the right-hand side, we have the network. And in this case, we have different terms there, and they have also been clustered. And these different colors show which cluster the terms are related to. For example, if we would look at the red cluster here, it shows that citizens, so they interviewed citizens, are in that cluster, and we can tell that they have recognized some barriers to democratic innovations, and they were related to communication of energy savings and carbon footprint. And this way we can see that there are many different clusters there, and it's quite typical that these different opportunities, barriers, enablers, and so on were in different clusters. But sometimes also they can be in the same cluster, and of course there should be then some way to interpret those. Perhaps it's good to tell you something also about the analysis process. So first of all, very important phase of doing the analysis is preparing the data and formatting it so that it's possible to import it into the analysis tool, of course. And there are many decisions that researchers have to make in this stage. And then we use the VOS Viewer tool for noun phrase extraction. And there are other tools possible to use as well, but in our research we have found the VOS Viewer noun phrase extraction to be working quite well. And then one phase of the analysis was also manual coding. So researchers read through the interview quotes and then marked if there were one of the codes present in that quote, one or several perhaps. And also we used the agency or the role of the interviewee as one of the codes in this analysis. Then one thing to decide is the minimum frequencies of the terms. So for example, in these use cases, we often focused on terms that were mentioned at least 4 or 5 times in the data to be able to see the big picture and the connections between the most frequent and most commonly mentioned terms. Then one thing to do is also the clustering. So in this case, it was important to see how the different terms were connected to each other and what kind of clusters were present in the data. So we did this clustering to the data as well. Then, of course, there are many things to decide when we are reporting this, what kind of visualizations we use, what kind of colors, how we color code the visualization and so forth. So there are many things that needed to be decided when we did this analysis. And then, of course, in the reporting phase, what terms, what kind of themes are highlighted in the data? Petteri, Mike, would you like to add something to this list of analysis phases?
Well, there was a lot going on. You're right about that, and I think one of the key things is we worked together many rounds of figuring out what we were looking for and how we could look for it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I can add that it was kind of challenging to figure out how do we put together these naturally occurring texts with induced or the categories that we were to assign and put them together in one network and interpret them as a single network. That was also quite an interesting and challenging task.
Right. Okay, thank you. Great. Next, let's look at a few more examples from our analysis. So the text might be quite small to read, but I'll just show these as examples of what we have done, and you can look at more information in the deliverable. So 3 more examples of how we can use the network analysis to gain insights from the data. So on the previous slide, we looked at one use case, but here on the left-hand side, we have a network of all 15 case studies. So this is one way of seeing the big picture of what kind of things and themes people are mentioning when they are talking about these democratic innovations. In addition, we did this comparison of different cases. For example, here we have compared all the municipal level cases with each other and what kind of opportunities, requirements, enablers and barriers were found from each case. And then also one perspective to the data was this agency. So was the person interviewed a citizen participating in the case, organizer or policymaker or decision maker? So that is one way to compare these different cases using the insights that we gain from the network analysis. And I think that these examples further emphasize the point that using some specific analysis approach or tool is a starting point to the analysis process. But after that, there are many different possibilities where the analysis might go to, and we can select different perspectives of analyzing and reporting these findings according to the research objectives. Yes, Petteri.
Thank you, Ilona. After this work, do you think it was easy to find answers to the questions you had on opportunities and requirements?
Yeah, that's a good question. Perhaps not easy. So we did have a lot of interview data, and we had 14,000 terms that we found there. But using these tools and analysis approaches, it was achievable, and in the end, quite logical how we then got to our findings and results. Thank you. Okay, I think that was an introduction to network analysis, and let's then move to the next part of our analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilona. I will continue in your spirit and also look at comparisons of cases based on the same interview kind of data. I'm not presenting as fancy graphics as you are, but I can assure you the approach has been similar to look below the surface, to look beyond the obvious. And we achieved it through configurational thinking. Now that's an interesting approach, I think, because quite often we speak of in democratic innovations that you should do something very well, that this is the thing, you know, which everything builds on and it's important. Or it can be, but there are also many different strategies for achieving something. And with configurational thinking and methodologies which go together with it, we can recognize strategies. The methodology we use is called fuzzy set qualitative comparative analysis. I know that sounds complicated, but it's not too bad.
Thank you, Petteri. Ilona again asking questions. So what is fuzzy in the analysis?
That's a very good question. Thank you. Fuzzy is actually quite clear once you get to know what the term is. It essentially means that any condition can have many different scalable sort of numbers, if you say. In so-called crisp sets, you either have yes or no, 0 and 1, but in fuzzy sets, you sort of have maybe 0 and 1, yes, but you might have things in between, you know, a little bit of that or a big piece of that, and so on, depending on the conditions you are looking for. I hope it'll get clearer for you, Ilona, as we go along.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. The great thing about this methodology is that it's suitable for analyzing small sets of data. Typically, people speak of 5 to 20 cases or so. It can be and has been used also for much larger, but it's one of those few which, you know, work well with small sets of data. Now here's my visualization, not as fancy as yours, but it has I think quite interesting things going on. Before this is an analysis of the necessary, this is not the necessary, this is the contributing conditions of different strategies for social learning in democratic innovation. Now, why are we interested in social learning? Well, we were looking at it because we believed that if one group of participants learn from the other and vice versa, then there's some learning going on, and that can make a change. So it's not just, you know, like-minded people amongst themselves, but it's about trying to affect society at large and other groups of people, institutions, policies, and so on. Now, before this analysis of the configurations of these conditions, which are empowerment, inclusivity, technological engagement, and turning points in the innovation process, we did an analysis of necessary conditions, which showed that none of these were necessary to achieve social learning. And that's quite interesting, I think. Okay, so let's look at these. Through the 15 cases, with this methodology, we could identify 3 quite different strategies for achieving social learning through democratic innovation. The number 1, with empowerment, is required, but there's the absence of inclusivity and the absence of technological engagement. Quite interesting, right? So that's one strategy, and maybe something you would call an activist kind of strategy. You're not looking for inclusivity, you're looking for attention, perhaps, being listened to through media or directly. So that's one strategy for the democratic innovations. Yes, another strategy, number 2, no empowerment, quite interesting, but there is technological engagement and turning points, so things change, you know, as time goes by. So that may be something, a strategy which online communities rely on. So there's deliberation, things go on, you talk online and so on. Nobody's maybe empowered, but it does contribute to others' learning. So an interesting strategy for democratic innovation. And then maybe, just maybe, the ideal strategy or the strategy we usually think of when we speak of democratic innovations. There's empowerment, there's inclusivity, and there's nowadays technological engagement. Mini publics, for instance, you have people convening, they're selected carefully, and they spend a day or two debating and so on. So that's also one strategy in the cases we have. What I found fascinating in this is that the ideal, the number 3, is only one of these 3. So that's something to keep in mind. There are many, at least many kinds of democratic innovations which embrace at least these 3 strategies. Quite interesting, I would say. These strategies in the methodology are called recipes, perhaps, and shows it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of world. Instead, I suppose one could rely on all of these strategies at some time, because some of the cases we had were quite long, and there were different phases or stages, and they were different, but you can call them methodologies, but different kinds of activities, in parallel. So that's what I had to say about comparisons, how things can be different. And now I'd like to ask Mike to join us to see, with the same data set, lots and lots of interviews and text, what is similar across these cases. So again, we're showing a new research design with a good methodology for that.
All right. Thank you, Petri, for this insightful presentation. And really looks like this configurational thinking is a really powerful tool. But let's go and talk about topic modeling and how can we extract themes from large texts. So in this slide, you can see 8 topics that we managed to extract from our corpus of 158 interviews covering all the 15 case studies. And those are latent topics, and we call them latent because those are underlying patterns that are not explicitly stated in the text, but rather emerge through the inferred statistical analysis. So basically, they are naturally occur in the text as speakers talk about democratic innovations. But to understand how we can use these topics and how we can achieve this extraction, let's briefly talk about what topic modeling actually is. And in essence, it is a combination of natural language processing and machine learning that together allow us to identify patterns of how words occur together. So natural language processing is used to convert text into numbers that are understandable by the machine, and machine learning is used to figure out how words occur and relate to each other. So in the beginning, a researcher defines the number of topics based on research goals, evaluation of metrics such as perplexity, which is the quality of how model predicts topics, and topic coherence, which is semantic similarities of words within each topics. And then, based on this number of topics, topic modeling is being run. And on the right hand side of this slide, you can see schematic illustration of how this process is being done. Basically, machine identifies terms that occur frequently in the texts, and these words are being assigned to topics, and then machine learning goes through each document to figure out which topic this document belongs to. And as a result, we have each topic represented as a list of prominent terms that we further have to interpret and to figure out what actually this topic talks about. And to do that, we use visualization tools, as one you see right now on the slide. On the left-hand side, we have topics represented by circles and their relationship. Closer topics are more similar, distant topics are more distinct. On the right-hand side, you can see list of the terms for each topic arranged in their relevance. And we also do close readings of most representative texts, and we combine it with our knowledge of the corpus to understand the picture that these topics give us. So as a result of this interpretation, we can label each of these topics and to see how distributed they are across the corpus. And in our case, we do the analysis, and we find out that actually more than half of the corpus talks about interaction among various actors. And those are topics on collaborative civic activism, developing community collaboration, democratic dialogue and communication, and inclusive democracy online and offline. We also managed to see that almost a third of the corpus talks about instrumental dimensions of democratic innovations through topics that cover political processes and citizen initiatives, digital collaboration for change, and training civic action. And we also, interestingly, found out that one topic stands out, which covers youth participation in democratic processes. This is a nice high-level picture, but how about digging deeper and seeing what happens for each case study? And we can see it too. So in this picture, you can see that each case study represented as a bar with colored segments that show distribution of topics in each case study. And analyzing that, we can figure out and find out that they are somewhat different and somewhat similar at the same time. So we can find similarities and differences. For instance, we can see that a few case studies actually concentrated around one particular topic at a time. So for instance, Save Bees and Farmers talks a lot about political processes and citizen initiatives. Conference on the Future of Europe concentrated around democratic dialogue and communication, and Municipalities in Transition covering a lot of developing community collaboration. This is one kind of similarity. But we also can see that there are case studies that where topic distribution looks somewhat similar. For example, case study 8 and 9 from Italy, both of these case studies are dominated by instrumental dimension of topics expressed through political processes and citizen initiatives and digital collaboration for change. In a similar way, we can see that case studies 2 and 3 from Croatia and Slovenia, they are dominated by collaborative civic activism with other topics being supported. And in a similar way, there are similarities for case studies 4 and 5 from Finland. So in general, we through this nuanced investigation, we can use these differences and similarities to help democracy practitioners to frame a set of questions and issues that they can use for their plans, for their activities and actions. And that's the value that topic modeling can bring for democratic processes. Yeah, Petre has a question.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. It looks very elaborate, and I know you have a background in software engineering.
Yeah.
But how do you feel? Was it difficult for you to do topic modeling the first time?
Yeah, and actually the first time was not as easy as it may look like, because these topic modeling libraries or software is extremely configurable, and one has to get into internals to understand how it works and to set initial parameters and understand how they work for a particular data set. But eventually, when the setup is ready, yeah, further analysis are much easier. So.
Can I follow up on that?
Yep.
Which would you prefer? Using a simple system and not looking at the parameters, or using something which is a bit more complex and looking at it in more detail?
That's a good question. It depends on what are your research goals. Sometimes our research are quite elaborate and unique, so you really want to get into like any possible tweaks you can have your hands on. But in some cases, for instance, WorksViewer, as Ilona said, proved to be a very useful tool as is. So that's very. So eventually, we took a look at what topic modeling is, how we interpret the results of topic modeling, and how we can use these results to get insights for democratic processes. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, Ilona and Mike. And I think the presentations show that with the same focus, which is a set of texts, we could do quite different things, which even look different if we look at the visualizations. I noticed we didn't speak too much about what a corpus is. It's something which is used in linguistic studies. It's a set of text, but you always have to do some kind of some people call it cleaning or organizing. You know how you here Mike shows, you know, according to cases, but it could also have been according to something else, like according to citizens and versus policymakers and so on. So you do all those kinds of things, and then of course you also have to make sure it's in the format which suits the software you're going to use. Okay. If you wish to ask us anything, we are here. We can assure you, as we learned, all of this is doable. And you don't have to do it yourself. You can always find someone who is gifted or clever and can help, but you can actually even do it yourself. It's not like using, I don't know, SPSS in statistics, where you have, you know, you click and select the right analysis. It's a bit closer to qualitative research in general. I think the visualization Mike showed, you know, where you have the sort of post-its on one side and the colored pens in the text, I think that's a wonderful description of how many of these things work in a digital world. Yeah. If we have questions, we can take them, and in the chat, I would like to ask myself, as I take the opportunity, I'll ask you, Ilona. Was it all as easy as it looks now?
Well, perhaps again, easy wouldn't be the word. There was some learning curve, definitely.
Was it steep?
Well, perhaps in the beginning, yes. And of course, even when you already have some tool that you are familiar with, in every research case, you find some new things that you want to do with it.
Yeah.
So each case is usually quite different. So, but it helps when you know what tools are there and
Yes,
know where to look for them. Yes.
And that's what we wish to help everyone with, is to show that, you know, these tools or these approaches can be usable with other tools. And if you sort of have a mindset that they did something, maybe we could do something, you know, similar. That already helps quite a lot, actually. And the benefit of methodologies is that they give analytical rigor. You can explain what was sort of done. And here I have a follow-up question. Mike, how is this different from AI, artificial intelligence?
I would say it is a bit more reliable than AI because here we have statistical models that are based on machine learning, which is something from the part of AI, but it is tailored for a particular purpose, for a particular goal, and for that reason, it is already tuned to serve this particular research task.
And it's openly documented, so we have a better idea of what's going on with the algorithm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mike and I and Ilona have been doing some experiments with the same data using large language models. Are we impressed?
Yeah, I am definitely impressed. That's a very interesting direction that nowadays qualitative research takes. How we can use LLMs to assist us, and there is a huge area to explore because it can be used differently in different configurations. We can feed LLM with a set of questions, and then we can support LLM with another LLM to proofread it. That's like can create a complex pipelines that eventually might work.
I like the words at last, that eventually might work. What would you, Ilona, say?
Yes, well, there are many things that you can use them for, definitely, but perhaps we still need to find out what they are. So there's some work to be done, definitely.
Yeah.
In that area.
Well, I should also, I suppose, say that I'm also optimistic, and my impression is limited, I suppose. I enjoy the way they work with language, like translations, transcriptions, fantastic compared to what we have. For analysis, I'm not so sure we're not there yet. I don't know if we will be. We'll see. We're working on a book chapter where we did analysis, and it sort of we can see that, you know, an analysis with a language model can work if you're not aspiring for too much, I suppose, and people will start using it, we believe. So it's nice to get a feel of, you know, what it would be like. But the problem with those is we don't know how they work. And so we have to do fact checking. And if you have, for example, 158 long interviews, how do you do fact checking? So even in those cases, I suppose you can rely on some of the, you know, methodologies we have been trying to learn. Yeah.
I could probably add a bit
on
LLMs and AI. So yeah, I'm also understand the skeptical views on how AI performs. However, we can see that in some cases it can really do a good job. For instance, the pattern mention, translations, and the transcriptions. and many other things as well. So it works very well with formal languages. So those are opportunities for us to discover, to classify, to systematize, and to apply it, to find a way to integrate into our research.
And maybe as a final word, I could say that in the INCITE-DEM project, because we started some 3 years ago, but we started preparations and applications much earlier. We were hopeful, because we had feelings about this, that we could do machine translations, for instance, and machine transcriptions. And those turned out to be essential. So I think we're among the early projects who have relied on those kinds of automated tools with languages in preparing the data. I mean, this is a European project. We have, I don't know, 10 languages, 9 languages, which we used in the interviews, and analyzing them in one, the English one, requires a lot of effort if we do it conventionally, just preparing the corpus. So there is a place for everything. Thank you for being with us. We have enjoyed discussing these things, and if you want to look at the closer details, you can find them in the report at the project website. And we wish you happy endeavors in the world of linguistic analysis. Thank you. Bye-bye.